Amazon is the largest marketplace in the world, and if you're looking to get started, you're probably wondering which business model is best for you, and there's quite a few to choose from. So in this video, I'm going to break down every single different business model and list the pros and cons and which one might be best for you to get started. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sam, and I've been selling on Amazon for over 4.5 years. I've done £6 million in revenue and over £650,000 in profit. I've teamed up with the guys at Smart, where our goal is to be a one-stop shop for everything Amazon related. If you're looking to get started or looking to scale your business, then we offer one-to-one mentorship where I work with you directly to get the results you need. We also have a free community with over 1,000 members, and there's a bunch of free resources within that as well. So if you want to check any of those out, see the links in the description down below. Before you dive into Amazon, you want to make sure you understand what each of the business models are, because they are all very different and they all require different skill sets and all have different risks associated with them, as well as different capital requirements. So let's get started. So the different business models, we've got RA, OA, A2A, which you could kind of class as OA, wholesale and private label, and they're all very different in their own right. RA is retail arbitrage, OA is online arbitrage, and A2A is Amazon to Amazon. So RA is where you're physically walking into these retail shops like Curry's, Boots, John Lewis, purchasing products from there to then go and sell it on Amazon. Online arbitrage, you're practically doing the same thing, but you're doing it on their online website. So it could still be Boots, Curry's and John Lewis. But instead of walking into the shop, you're actually going on their website to purchase the products on there. And then Amazon to Amazon is you're buying products from Amazon to then sell back on Amazon. And a lot of people get very confused about this because they don't really understand how it works. So I will break this down shortly. So let's start with RA. RA is definitely the most beginner friendly, and it's probably the one with the least amount of risk, and RA is probably the easiest and the best one for start if you are a complete beginner, because you can get started straight away. All you've got to do is go to your shop and see what you can find and then list it on Amazon, whereas the other methods definitely take a little bit longer. With RA, it definitely requires the least amount of capital possible, and it is probably the least saturated out of all the different business models. And the reason for that is just because I walk into Boots and find a product which is heavily discounted, it doesn't mean every other Boots within the country is also going to have that same product. So whatever RA is probably the least saturated as well, because let's say I walk into Boots and I find a product on clearance. Just because it is on clearance in the shop I am in, it doesn't mean it's going to be on clearance across the country, and it is going to be very limited to what is available in that specific stock. Whereas if you're comparing it to online arbitrage, anyone with a laptop, doesn't matter where they are in the world, can log on to, let's say, Boots website and purchase that product. So that means there's a lot more eyes on that one deal. Whereas RA, it is very limited to what you've got available in your local store. Now, the only bad thing about RA is definitely not scalable. There's only so much you can do with it before you'll then have to move on to a different business model. But saying that, it is definitely great to get started, and it is definitely the business model I recommend for people who have time and are happy to get out and about and go to shops, especially if you're starting with low capital, because you are definitely going to get the highest return and the highest margin and ROI on your products if you are doing RA. So again, definitely the best one to get started. So that is definitely a pro to RA, is that it's less saturated. You'll definitely make more profit per product, and it is a great, easy, fast one to get started. Now, the only downsides, as I said, is the scalability of it. You're not going to be able to scale it massively. It is quite time consuming because you do have to travel, go outside and actually go physically to these stores and scan products in order to find anything. And you've got to take into consideration, obviously, petrol, time to get there and so on. So it can take a lot of time and you're not guaranteed to find anything. Whereas with online, you're going to be, I guess, sat behind a laptop or a computer. So you're not spending time actually going to the shops. You're literally typing in the website and it's as quick as that. Now, online arbitrage. So again, as I mentioned, you're going on the website and you're purchasing products directly from that. Online arbitrage is also a great business model, and it is the one I teach and it is the one I do. And it's the one I've been doing since 2021, and it's worked very well for me. And that is how I got my amazing results, is all by doing online arbitrage. I've dabbled in a bit of wholesale and I've just started private label, but it is all through online arbitrage. Now, as I said, with online, it is definitely more accessible. You don't physically have to walk into the shops. So if you do have like a full-time job job or you've got a very busy schedule, then it doesn't matter so much, because it doesn't matter what time or where you are in the world, you can log on to a laptop and then you can go on a website and purchase some products. So that is why this business model is great if you don't have time. Because a lot of people these days, obviously you've got a normal job and then you might have kids, family, or whatever you have, and you're going to be very restrictive on your time. So when the kids are in bed, when you've had dinner, whatever it is, you can sit at your laptop and then start looking at websites and seeing what you can find. Now with OA, the idea is you want to be buying stuff which is obviously as cheap as possible. And the way you do that is by including discount codes and coupons and vouchers and so on, in order to bring your cost of goods down to as cheap as you can possibly get it. Whereas retail arbitrage, you can't really add discounts. Occasionally you can get sort of in-store student discounts and stuff like that. But generally you're looking in the clearance sections of these shops to see what they've got on offer. Whereas with online, you are also looking in the clearance, but you're hopefully going to stack discount codes on there as well, just to try and drive that price down as much as possible. So the perks with online arbitrage, you can do this fully remote. It doesn't matter where you are. I know people who are in Thailand, Dubai, wherever they are, and they can still do online arbitrage. Even when I go on holiday for 2 weeks, I can still log onto my computer and do everything. So I was in Canada for the last 2 weeks and it didn't stop me with work, because all I had to do was log on and I could still purchase everything I needed to do. Whereas with RA, obviously, if I'm in Canada, I can't go into Boots and Currys and buy some products. So that is one of the huge advantages. You can also scale OA a lot more than you can scale RA, because again, there's no time restraints. You don't have to keep driving around. You're not limited to what's in stock. You got access to the whole internet, and every single retailer in the UK, as long as they've got a website, you have got access to their store at every single moment possible. So you can continually purchase all the time. And with OA, you can outsource this to scale it even further. And that's not something you can really do with RA. So with OA, for example, myself, I've got a team of 3 VAs and they are virtual assistants. So they are employees who work with me in the Philippines. 2 of them, their full-time job is sourcing products for online arbitrage. So I've got them working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and all they are trying to do is log onto these different websites and find deals for me to buy. Whereas with RA, you can't really do that. I suppose you can get some friends and family to go out to the shops and so on. But again, you're very limited to locations and whatever is around you. So that is a huge bonus with OA. It is hugely scalable. You can also get prep centers. So when you order a product from, say, John Lewis, instead of getting it sent directly to you, you get it sent directly to a prep center. The prep center will then package, prep it up, and then send it into Amazon for you as well. So again, this helps you massively if you want to be remote, or if you do go on holiday. Again, this doesn't stop you, because you have a team of VAs who are sourcing for you, and you can also have a prep center who will do all the prep. So all your job is essentially is admin side of things, which again, you can probably outsource, and repricing and just making sure everything is running as it should. Some of the cons with online arbitrage, it can be a little bit more saturated, but it is still nowhere near enough saturated for you to sort of avoid it. As I said, I've done £6 million in sales all from online arbitrage. It is definitely not saturated. When I first started, people were telling me it was saturated then, and that was 4 years ago, and it is still not saturated. You do not have to worry about that. Another con is ungating, but again, this applies to all business models really. Sometimes it can be very difficult to get ungated. Amazon are having loads of issues at the minute with the ungating process, so it's taking a long time, but you just need to be persistent and constantly pump them with invoices to get your brands ungated so you can then sell them. And the only other downside is that some retailers, they will cancel large orders. So if you want to spam Currys with a load of orders, for example, to be honest, Currys are pretty good for it, but let's say Boots, if you want to spam Boots with a load of orders, then there's a very high chance they will probably cancel a lot of those orders, because they don't like selling to people who are gonna resell your products. But there's a lot of ways around it, so it is definitely not an issue. Like I said, I haven't really found that too much of an issue. Over time, you just get to realize who you can order from and who you can't order from, and yeah, it's absolutely fine. So it's not something to worry about. Let's move on to Amazon So like I said, a lot of people get very confused with this because they don't understand, like, well, I'm selling on Amazon, how can I buy on there and then sell on there as well? So what most people don't realize is that Amazon offer huge discounts a lot of the time, and it could be anything from 10, 20, 30, 40, like 50, 60% off products, which you can then buy and then sell back on Amazon's platform. So it's really important to understand how this works, because it can be hugely profitable. And I know people who just do Amazon to Amazon and make very, very good money. So when we're selling, we've got a number of tools we use, Keeper being one of them, and that can can notify us whenever Amazon drops their price on a product. We can then analyze that and see if it's worth buying and then sell it back. So the whole idea of Amazon to Amazon is you're waiting for them to drop the product, and then you want to decide, are Amazon going to increase that product back to the recommended retail price, or are they going to sell out? Now, based on one of those two options, it is going to give us an opportunity to sell the product back at retail price. Amazon to Amazon is definitely not a method to be slept on. It doesn't really matter what business model you do. I think Amazon to Amazon should play a part in that because it can be very profitable. A2A is a very quick and easy one to get started as well. You don't need loads of tools, loads of software. It doesn't take you loads of time. You just need Keeper and say SellerAmp or Buyable Pro, whichever one you prefer, to analyze the deals, and then that's generally all you need, and the Amazon website. So you don't have to look on loads of different websites like Boots, John Lewis, Currys, everything like that. It is purely just on the Amazon's website. It makes everything a lot easier from like an admin point of view. If you're chasing returns or if you're chasing sort of missing deliveries, anything like that, you just have to go on the Amazon platform, and it's just super simple to use. Most people use it day in, day out anyway. Super easy, super simple, definitely one to get started on. So wholesale, this is where you're buying products in bulk, and you're going to be buying hundreds, if not thousands of units to then sell on Amazon. Now, this is probably one of the harder methods to get started. It requires a lot more capital. With RA, you can probably get that started with, let's say, £1,000, and you'll do quite well. With OA, you probably, I would say, need about £2,000. Some people say less, but to be honest, I don't think so. But with £2,000, I think it's probably the perfect amount to get started. Any less than that, it's going to take you a very long time to scale and actually grow that business. Whereas RA is a bit different because you're going to get a lot more higher margin for your product, so you can scale that a little bit quicker with lower capital. But with wholesale, I personally wouldn't want to go into wholesale unless I had like £20,000-25,000. You hear a lot of people saying you can start wholesale with less than £1,000. I really don't think you can, and it is definitely not something I would advise. I've done wholesale before, and I know starting with low capital, it is just not going to work. There is no point. You might as well start with OA or RA. It's going to be much easier to grow and scale and actually start a business, whereas with wholesale, that's just not going to happen. If you think about it, you're competing with huge wholesalers on Amazon. They've got like millions of pounds behind them, and you're trying to speak to the same wholesalers as they are. And let's say you've got £1,000 and you're trying to negotiate a deal on 200 units of something, you're just not going to get the best price for that compared to another wholesaler with 100 grand behind them who are going to say, right, I want 1,000 units. What price can you do? Their price is always going to be so much better than yours. You just can't compete with them, and there's no point trying. And the problem with wholesale is you have to buy a lot of units. So that means you're going to be holding on to that stock for a lot longer. Whereas RA, OA in the other methods, you can just buy 2, 3, 4, 5, sort of 6 units at a time just to test the waters, and that's fine. Whereas wholesale, you can't do that. You need to buy 100 units or whatever it may be. It might be a little bit less, it might be a little bit more. Who knows? Depends who you speak to. And then, yeah, you're going to have to hold those products for a lot longer. So this is going to hold your capital back a lot more. So again, if you don't have much capital, you don't want to be holding on to that for such a long time because it's going to stop you from scaling, and it's going to make things a lot harder. Wholesale is absolutely amazing though, and it is definitely a great business model should you have the capital to go into that. It is probably the most consistent business model, that and private label, because with wholesale, you're generally replenishing the same deals over and over again. So you're going to be very consistent, and you can scale that almost indefinitely. Like, there is so much room to scale. You can get brand direct agreements in place. There's so much you can do with wholesale. So again, it is a great business model. You just need the capital behind you in order to scale that. And with wholesale, you can be remote and you can outsource it. So again, you can get a team, but generally the largest wholesalers you see, they will have UK warehouses. So a lot of the time you might have to be present in the warehouse. Obviously, when you're first starting, that is not the case, and you can be remote. But as you scale and you want to start hitting those really big high numbers, then you're probably going to want to start bringing the fulfillment in-house and start with a warehouse. You're going to have to get a team behind you and loads of other things like that. So you're definitely treating wholesale as more of a proper serious business when you get to that stage, whereas with OA and RA, you can sort of do that on the side and have that as a bit of a side hustle. Now finally, let's get on to private label, and this is probably one of the most interesting ones, but it is maybe not the hardest, but it's definitely one of the most confusing ones to get started, and it is definitely not an easy option. I feel like you do need a lot of help along the way if you are doing private label. So private label, you are essentially creating your own brand. So you're going to be doing some deep research on Amazon to see if there are any gaps in the market for certain products. You're then going to be going to manufacturers and suppliers in, let's say, China or something like that, to then produce your product and then get that listed on Amazon. Now with private label, as I said, you are essentially creating a whole brand. So you're going to be speaking to these manufacturers, you're going to be giving them the designs and say, right, I want you to create this product. You'll then give them all the packaging information, all your branding and everything like that. So there's a lot more involved in doing that. Whereas online OA wholesale, you're selling products which are already on the Amazon marketplace. So you don't have to create listings, you don't have to do anything like that. You can see what's already selling well and just buy that product and then sell it again. Whereas with private label, you are creating everything from brand new. Everything is just not been done before and you are doing everything from the go. So you need to get all like brand registry in place. You need to get photos for listings. You need to understand how to run advertising, everything like that. There's a whole load of information within private label and it takes a certain skill set in order to master all of that. I've just started my own private label brand and it has been a learning curve to say the least. I've had issues almost every single stage at this point. So I've had issues with the shipping that was massively delayed. I've had issues with the packaging. I now have to redo all the packaging, which is very annoying, time consuming, costly. And I've now got issues with Amazon listing where they're asking for loads of certification for my product. So again, I've had to fork out more money and everything like that, more time. And now hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I will eventually be able to list the product if no more issues occur. But saying that, private label is definitely a great method if you understand the process and you know what you're getting yourself in for. You can scale private label almost indefinitely and you can create huge brands just from private label. I know so many multi-million pound brands who all started on Amazon and now they're in loads of different retail shops, which you will see on a daily basis. Now, some of the cons to private label is it can be quite risky and it does take a lot of capital. I don't think it takes as much capital as wholesale, but I would recommend at least sort of 10 to 15,000 pounds if you want to get started with private label. And the risk is definitely there because there's no guarantee your product is going to work and your product is going to sell for what you think it might sell for. So with mine, I've got a good idea on what I think I can sell mine for, and I've got a very good idea on how many I think I'm going to sell a month. But the reality might be very different to what I've actually pictured in my head. So again, the risk is there. It could be a massive flop and I could end up selling all these products for a loss, but who knows? It's something I'm going to find out hopefully in the next few months. But yeah, the risk is definitely there. Now to recap, you've got retail, online, A2A. They're all sort of grouped together because they're all very similar sort of styles of sourcing and styles of methods. They are probably the least riskiest. They require the least amount of capital and they're definitely the easiest and fastest ones to pick up as a beginner. And it is definitely something I would recommend. But if you're looking to get started on selling on Amazon, I would definitely recommend starting with those models first and then scaling up into something else. What you'll find is the majority of people who do sell on Amazon, they will start with one of those three models or all of those models, and then they'll then, as they scale and grow, they'll then divert into sort of wholesale or they'll divert into private label. That seems to be the general sort of trajectory of things. Yeah, after a couple of years, you then jump onto something else when you got a bit more money behind you, you got a bit more experience and you sort of know what you're doing. Then wholesale is definitely one if you've got enough capital to be able to tackle wholesale. There again, you can scale that massively, but you just need the money behind you. And then private label, again, another one you can scale just absolutely massively as well. You just need to be aware of the risks involved and just make sure you've got the capital for there as well. If any of you need any help or anything to get started or even to sort of grow your business from wherever you are, make sure you check out our 7-figure mentorship. All the description is below and I'll be keeping posting more videos on how to get started, how to help, how to grow, anything sort of Amazon related as well. So if you're interested in this content, make sure you like, subscribe and catch me on the next one.